so we're building toward the third reconstruction, like a real reconstruction. It will be a reconstruction of the United States along the lines of socialist equality and the equality of all oppressed nationalities and races and identities in this territory, which includes, right, not just like we're all on the same footing, but it includes the right to secede, right? Because what good is a right to independence if you don't have the right to leave? You know, it's like having the right to marriage without the right to divorce. So that's what we're fighting for, and that's what we're going to be talking about. And the first speaker, Jay, is somebody who actually came around to the party, was introduced to the party through the library struggle. We were out there, you know, we led for over a year, a sustained campaign, you know, to have the people actually, to have the library be truly public. And Jay was there taking part in it, taking pictures, and just noticed the signage, noticed who was doing the work, who was doing the speaking, and also I think the openness of it. It's not like it was just PSL speakers. I think we had Democrats and Republicans speak, whoever would speak, right? Because it's about winning a thing. It's not about I don't know, who's better than who, right? Who has the best politics in that moment. We want to win victory, right? And so Jay joined in 2022, I want to say, more or less. And actually hasn't been spoken at Liberation Forum since 2023. Yeah. So not that they're rusty. I'm not saying that. Jay's a videographer and helped us tremendously and was really the director for the 2 documentaries we put together for the comrade Vernon T. Bateman, who we are currently in the process of exonerating and freeing. And there's a petition over there. There's a flyer we'll hand out, and please sign the petition because every signature really does matter. And we just got his parole stipulations today, and we think that we're going to be able to get those lifted very soon, in a week or 2. Yes, that's some big stuff. So please, Jay is going to be talking about multinational unity, the need for it, the possibility of it, and more.
Yeah, I joined the, it was convenient to join the library struggle. I live right next to it. The library, the central library, where the steps where people were at, and it was the middle of December. And a couple weeks later is when I joined, so it was technically the end of 2022, but really it was just all of 2023. And yeah, that first Liberation Forum, I spoke about the tornado relief efforts that we helped conduct and took part in Whiteland, Indiana. And I think it actually relates a little bit to what we're talking about. We're talking about multinational unity, and we really saw that on display when we went down and conducted some interviews with the pastor of a church who was facilitating a lot of direct aid to the people in the area and of all people of all kinds. And so that was really a good example of what unity could look like, but I'm going to go into kind of more in depth of what multinational unity could look like. So, we live in a country built on exploitation and oppression, a country where division has always been the primary tool of the ruling class, and it's a tool that they continue to wield today, and it protects their position. The ruling capitalist class in the US uses the tool of white supremacy as well. It's a tool that people have been at the mercy of for a while. But the people also have their own tool. That tool is multinational unity. It's not a slogan, but it is a material necessity. It's a strategy grounded in history, in struggle, and in the common interest of all people, all of you here. And the working and oppressed classes can use this tool to move forward against the ruling classes that seek to divide us. Our history of multinational unity is rooted in a legacy of resistance, defying the divisions imposed on us by the ruling class at any time. In this era, where reactionary forces attempt to roll back the even limited gains of past movements, it is more important than ever to reclaim the lessons of history and apply them to our struggle today. So, what is multinationalism? Multinationalism is a recognition of the diverse nations that exist within the United States. and more specifically, oppressed nations that exist within the country, including indigenous nations and the Black nation, the Afrikan nation, the Chicano nation. You could go on and on about the different oppressed nations within this country. So, with all these different regions, languages, cultures, habits, dialects, groupings, enclaves, all these different pieces throughout not only America, but Latin America, the Caribbean Americas, and more. What does that have to do with Black liberation and the experiences that have plagued Black people within these different Americas throughout time? The slave trade was forged or the Black nation was forged from the slave trade and the distinct oppressions that came upon Black people throughout the states and the Americas throughout that time. And it's a dominant, oppressing narrative that we've seen countless times. And it's something that can be shared across historical divides. And so on a diasporic level, it's something that there is commonality between different diasporic cultures within the Black culture, the Black nation of the Americas. So, similar to Russia at the time of the Bolshevik Revolution, we consider the U.S. a prison house of nations, and that is the duty of all members of the oppressor nation to fight the independence, autonomy, and freedom of the oppressed nations. This is not theoretical or rhetorical, and it's definitely not posturing. It makes it a duty for us to demonstrate and practice unconditional solidarity with the struggles of these oppressed nations, within and beyond the borders of the United States. To build a true multinational unified force, we must acknowledge both the shared struggles and the uniqueness of these struggles. Multinational unity is not something that is seeking to erase the identities of these struggles, and it's not definitely something that seeks to homogenize. It is something that distinctly pinpoints the uniqueness of all of these different cultures. The American ruling class has always feared the unity of the oppressed. From the earliest days of colonialism, enslaved Africans, indigenous nations, and poor white laborers saw their common interest. The Bacon's Revolution in 1676 terrified the colonial state, leading a deliberate strategy of racial division through laws and solidified chattel slavery and elevated poor whites just enough to break their class solidarity. So that is an example of an attempt for multinational unity that the ruling class then used racial strategies, racist strategies to divide. That still didn't stop the multiracial alliances of enslaved and free Black people and indigenous nations, resisting settler colonial expansion as seen in the Seminole Wars, where Black Seminoles fought side by side with their indigenous comrades against U.S. forces. The Underground Railroad was also a network of Black resistance and it contained white abolitionists, including working class radicals who risked their lives to fight the institution of slavery. The labor struggles of the 19th and early 20th centuries were groups like the Industrial Workers of the World, IWW, organized across racial lines, using Black, white, and immigrant workers, uniting Black, white, and immigrant workers who, at the time, was pretty unpopular. Most of the unions were very white. Which also, around the 1930s, the Communist Party of the day, the Communist Party of the United States, played a major role in organizing sharecroppers in the South, where Black and white workers stood together against racist terror and economic exploitation. Civil rights movements are also where we can make some notable looking back at lessons. Thank you. We can see some. I was like, what? I don't have it written down. But the civil rights movement is where we can see some notable lessons of the day. Who we can also see in our history books some notable downplaying of those lessons. So important instances of this multinational unity of that day includes the Deacons of Defense and Justice, a black armed self-defense group who worked in tandem with progressive white allied forces to protect activists in the Deep South, and the Young Lords, a Puerto Rican revolution organization that collaborated closely with the Black Panthers to fight for community control, healthcare, and just to end police violence in general. And we also cannot forget Fred Hampton's Rainbow Coalition. These are all notable, and also, if you read up on them, they may contain notable downplaying. And so it's here that we try to strive to send the message that this is that we're trying to teach real history about what these revolutions were about. They're about multinational unity. So this transcends the United States. Of course, multinational unity is not just seen here. The Cuban Revolution brought together black and white Cubans to overthrow Batista's dictatorship, and anti-apartheid movements in South Africa were gained through global solidarity. I mean, that's where the BDS movement was born. Speaking of, the struggle of Palestinians today is deeply linked to the fight against imperialism, and black radicals and thought leaders of the 1960s saw their own struggle tied to Vietnam, Algeria, and Latin America as well. So, how do we build it? How do we build multinational unity? Multinational unity is not the erasure of difference, as I said, but the forging of a common struggle. The capitalist class does not maintain power because it is particularly intelligent or capable. It rules by keeping the working class divided. It rules by keeping us divided and not putting us in a room like this where there's tons of different faces here. Every time the people have built powerful movements, the ruling class has responded with repression and division. With the second Trump presidency emboldening the far right, the stakes are higher than ever. Anti-black, anti-LGBTQ, transphobic, racist, homophobic, anti-disability. I could go on, and I should go on, but we don't have that much time. So it is just emboldening more of these anti-people policies. Now more than ever, it is time that we unite, and the left can do that by putting multinational unity at the forefront of our strategy. The alternative is defeat, and to build this, I put together a couple of things that we could stick home. So if you're writing something down, here's five things. So, 1, look to the past. All of the histories of multinational unity have listed, that I have listed and haven't listed that you should continue to look up or talk to us about, were met with resistance from our oppressors. The anti-communist initiatives like COINTELPRO, the Smith Act, and continual McCarthyist narratives and movement co-option can all be directly linked to an oppressed identity's attempts at liberation. Ton of anti-communist sentiment within the United States ties back to a black struggle of some sort. It's actually very eye-opening when you realize how connected that is. And to make the mistakes of the past is to not make the mistakes of the past is to create a better future, and we must learn from our history and the shared history of our unifying struggle. So, 2, unite through working class interest. Multinational unity is built by organizing around material needs, wages, housing, healthcare, the basics, not by appealing to empty slogans. These material struggles cannot be separated from our oppressions, and real solidarity means recognizing both at all times. Efforts like union organizing, tenant defense, mutual aid, prioritize leadership and the needs of the oppressed, and that's how we unite. Number 3, confront racism as a weapon of division. The elite uses racism to pit everyday people against each other. White workers are taught to see that black and immigrant workers are competition or a threat to their working lives. And black and brown workers are taught to distrust the white people that are doing the work, especially the white left. And a clear anti-racist, anti-chauvinist political line must be developed and upheld at all levels of organizing. That includes what is happening right now. Like, we are doing a liberation forum on Black liberation, and I am not Black. That is a testament to what multinational unity looks like. Number 4, reject identity politics and reject sectarianism. I practiced this a bunch of times when I tried to say sectarianism. Thank you. Our identities are real. The experiences of Black people are real. The experiences of Indigenous people are real. The experiences of immigrant people are real. LGBTQ people are real. All experiences are real. And to think otherwise in the context of multinational unity is homogenizing the identities. I've already belabored this point, but it is part of the identity politics of our day, something that we can fall victim to as something that's purely idealistic, or I wrote down the actual word I wanted to say for this, whereas it's symbolic there. Identity politics can be seen as just purely symbolic. They are not. Our identities are real, but the politics around them, we need to center them as something that is not like homogenized again. So, revolutionary multinationalism is about collective liberation and not about personal representation within the system. And then 5, the last one, meet people where they are at. So, we must engage in all struggles: labor organizing, immigrant rights, LGBTQ rights, anti-imperialism, I could go on. But because of these, all of these struggles that I mentioned, they do all impact Black people, period, every single one of them. And so that is a commonality that strives for Black liberation. We cannot afford ideological purity that isolates us from our neighbors and our communities. The goal is to bring this connection into practice with the people who are already struggling. So, everyone in this room. Those are my 5 things. Okay. The struggle then deserves to be built. It's already being built, but we need to continue to build it. Multinational unity is not an idealistic dream. It is the only way forward. Every step toward revolutionary change has required alliances across racial and national lines. Every successful movement has confronted the barriers placed between us and placed by the oppressors of our day, the elite. It is not enough to call for unity. It is something we must build actively. As the forces of bigotry grow bolder and the ruling class seeks to divide us further, our task is clear: to deepen our organizing, to strengthen our political clarity, and to ensure that every effort we make is in service of building multinational unity. A broad, disciplined, and multinational movement is necessary for revolutionary change, and the ruling class fears that unity. They know the power of our unity better than we know it, but we only know the potential of that power. History demands that we make multinational unity a reality. Thank you.